what I want you guys to hear is that your plan requires you to operate like you have infinite cognitive capacity. You have infinite amount of load that you can take on. I am here to tell you that that plan is broken. It will break you. It will exhaust you. It will cause problems in your relationships, in your work, in your relationship with your children. Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, the podcast where we debunk the eat less, move more, shrink more mentality and focus on what really matters, which includes your relationship with your body, food, self-worth, and the behaviors that align with all of those. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, licensed therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. At the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, we believe what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. So let's have a conversation about that. Before we get into today's amazing episode, I want to make sure you've hit that follow button wherever you're listening to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. Also, if you like to listen to this pod on the go, make sure you have those downloads turned on. As always, I love a 5-star rating and review, and I want to thank you for your continued support. Now, let's get into the episode. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. I am so thrilled that you took this time out for yourself to learn something about your physical and mental health. And we're going to talk about a concept that I would guarantee no other podcast is talking about, because I really wanted to use National Women's History Month to focus on things very specific to women. So I scoured the internet for the most recent research of things that affect women that we are not talking about. And today is a doozy. It is a doozy. And I am just like flabbergasted that I, as someone who specializes in women's health, we talk about load, capacity, nervous system regulation, all those things, that I had not talked about this. So we're going to title this, it's not the chores, it's the ownership, the mental gap nobody measures. So welcome back. If you've ever thought, like, why the hell am I so tired, even though myself and my partner are doing pretty much the same chores, or you think, why am I so tired and my husband or partner has so much fucking energy? This is the episode for you. This is the episode for you. Because what I want you to understand right away is that you're exhausted because you're exhausted not because you just like do the dishes, or you just do the laundry, or you just, take the trash out. You're exhausted because you're the one who will notice when those things aren't happening. Not just one of them. You will notice all of them. And that constant micromanagement of your and your partner's and your family's life is called mental load. And today we're going to talk about a new research paper that came out in 2025, and it measured what most studies don't measure, as I mentioned, because research oftentimes looks at time, like the time it takes to cook, to clean, to care for the children, right? But in this particular research paper, it focused on who carries the responsibility, who organizes, who plans, who predicts, who anticipates, who holds the if I don't do it, then it won't happen job. Who is that in the family? And if you're a high achieving woman, successful, capable, driven, all the ones that are listening to this research also shows that this topic hits you differently than maybe a stay-at-home mom, for example, because your brain doesn't just do the work. Your brain runs the systems, right? And the thing is, you're running that household system as well as the system in your career all at the same time. And both systems are going to pay a price. So in this episode, I'm going to explain to you what this research found, and I'm going to talk to you in real language. So just buckle up, okay? We're going to connect to why you feel overstimulated, resentful, snappy, bitchy, depleted, even when you have a helpful partner, because I know a lot of you do. And I know a lot of you are like, but he's so helpful. Like, I don't understand why I feel this way. Then I'm going to give you practical ways, as always, to not turn your relationship into a scoreboard or a tit for tat, but actually create a relationship where there's a mutual mental load that can help both of you feel responsible and execute things in your lives so that you feel good about the balance that you're creating. So what is mental load, right? So Mental load is everything that we put on ourselves. So I want to talk about ongoing cognitive and emotional labor. Okay. So your cognitive labor is a lot of things. I mean, we obviously take in so much stimuli. We need to process that stimuli. We need to create our thoughts about that stimuli. We need to react to that stimuli if needed. We then, create thoughts and then actions and emotions out of that. On top of that, we're beyond just taking in what we're witnessing. We are taking in everything that we need to do, how to do it, make sure that it gets done correctly. Then your emotional labor is interacting with people, having disappointments, being happy, being content, watching a sad, commercial and crying, or being on TikTok and getting pissed because you see what's going on in the political climate. That's your emotional load. And what ends up happening for a lot of women specifically is we become this kind of invisible project manager in our lives. And I want to talk to you about what this looks like, because you're going to be like, holy shit. Yeah, this makes so much sense. So hear me out. You notice when the diapers are about to run out. You know when Spirit Week is and what day is pajama day. You schedule the dentist appointment and have the completed forms and the insurance card. You keep track of what's in the fridge and what do we need for dinners. You anticipate the meltdown of the kiddo before it happens and regulate the entire system. You hold this freaking list in your head all day, every damn day, right? And this is an issue because you and your partner can split the chores 50-50, but you still will have that one person who holds 90% of that mental load. And when that is you, you carry so much risk, or you perceive that. You risk that if you forget or it is not executed in the way that you want, something will fall apart. If you drop the ball, it is on you, and that is a lot of stress to carry. So what happens is you stay constantly vigilant of making sure nothing bad happens. And guess what? That's fucking exhausting. It's very, very stressful. This is why so many of my clients say there's just not enough time in the day. I can't seem to feel okay relaxing. I can't. That is probably one of the major issues of the women that I work with. Like, I don't feel comfortable relaxing. I don't feel comfortable sitting with myself. Really, it's because you're actually not sitting with yourself. You're still sitting with this constant tape playing in your head. Your body is never allowed to downshift out of this chronically stressed state, something I say all of the time, because you're constantly still running all of the household, all of your career, all of your social operations. Okay? So let's talk about where this pattern forms. So this is not a conversation that your partners are pieces of shit. My husband is very, very helpful in our household, but when it comes to forward thinking, he's not great at it. And I'm a pro, right? I am the one who say we are going to go to 3 different events that day. I'm thinking about what we need to wear, what I need to bring in my bag, right? Making sure that he has everything he needs, making sure that we have the right shoes on, the right outfits on. Oh, and if we need to stop here to get the present in between so that we're not carrying it to this event, which would be silly, right? And we're going to plan the Uber ahead of time. That is me, right? This is the combination of conditioning. This is a combination of conditioning plus defaulting roles that we're going to talk about, and this reinforcement loop that makes this all seem like it's normal, but it's not. So as we've talked about many times, competence becomes a lot of our identity. For high achieving women, we have taken that golden child role, and the golden child might sound all great. You're the one who gets good grades. You're the one who's a good girl. You're reliable. You do the volunteering. You're helpful around the house. You're never really a problem. The problem, though, is that the golden child they often have a lot of responsibility placed on them to make the family look good. Oftentimes with the golden child is also the black sheep child. And that child's responsibility is to say, if that child could just get their shit together, then the family would be fine. So really, being a golden child, you hold the responsibility to not expose the dysregulation and, like toxic shit going on in your family system. And or the only reason you receive praise in your family is when you're being that good little reliable girl. Good girl syndrome is a true thing. And it really evolves to the things that we're talking about today. The problem with this though, is that this default eventually evolves over time. So while you're a little girl, you're like, I can do anything. That can turns into I should do anything and everything. And that should over time turns into I must. I must do it all. I must do it right. I must do it perfectly. It all rests on me. And if I don't do it, I have 3, 4, or 5, however big your family is, people who are going to be disappointed. And I cannot take that on. The problem with this is that the system doesn't reward you, right? Nobody thinks about the fact that you anticipated everything. You prevent chaos. You prevent the meltdown. You make sure things are fucking simple, but nobody knows that. Nobody even sees that you do that. They just think things magically work that way, that their lives are magically easier, but never give any sort of praise to the fact that you are the reason their lives are so simple. The other thing is your partners genuinely underestimate this load that you have on yourself. Because you're the one constantly tracking and planning and adjusting and adapting, right? You never expose the reality to anybody else. Like, you don't allow for the cracks to be shown. You are anticipating those cracks. You got your freaking cement ready just to patch them up. No one can see them. And because of that, your partner underestimates the load. And I think about one of my clients who really is not happy in the trajectory of the relationship that she's in. But when her partner asks, like, well, what's wrong? She's like, oh, nothing. How is he supposed to know about how resentful and hurt that she is if she's not saying it, right? Now, that's a little bit of a different topic, but really it's when we cover everything up and we keep whether it's good or bad, we never expose the other adults in this relationship to the reality of what you've been doing behind the scenes, right? You're like the Wizard of Oz. So this brings me to this study, because this research doesn't just say women do more. We know that. But it shows that even inside couples, there is a perception gap and a mental load gap between partners. And that mismatch between what you carry and what your partner thinks you carry is where a lot of resentment breeds. Because when you're constantly thinking and doing and executing, while yes, your partner maybe equally takes on the chores, you're still the one who has to make sure that it gets done. So the mental exertion in comparison to the physical chores is vastly different. That is so important for you guys to hear. So what did this research find? So this is a 2025 working paper titled Beyond Time, Unveiling the Invisible Burden of Mental Load. It uses data from the Times Observatory in Italy and combines time use diaries with new survey indicators designed to capture cognitive labor, emotional fatigue, and even spillover in the workplace. So what this means, I'm going to go through each of the findings one by one. So I'm going to be looking at my screen for those of you on YouTube just to make sure that I get all of them. So finding number 1 is not a surprise. Women are more likely to carry the organizational responsibility. Women are not just doing the tasks, right? We're not just doing the chores. We take on the responsibility of them, the responsibility of executing them. So in real life, your partner may take the trash out, okay? They're going to take the trash from, like for us, on the side of the yard to the curb. But Mark does this too, actually, but for you're the one who notices when the trash is full. If your partner does not get it out of that trash can in the time that you feel necessary, you're going to tie it up, right? You're going to put it to the side of the house. You know when recycling week is. You know when to replace the bags, like not just the bag in the trash can. You know when we're low on bags to ensure that to ensure that there's always a fucking bag there. That's you, baby girl, right? Okay. Finding number 2, women are less satisfied with the division of the mental load. So from this research, women understand that culturally, the narrative is that women like to be the managers. We like to control. We like to take on this responsibility and the mental load that comes with it. False. Not based on this research, baby. This study suggests the exact opposite. Greater responsibility is associated with less satisfaction and more fatigue.
Did you know that 95% of people that lose weight gain it back and then some? 95%. And the interesting thing, what is my hair doing? The interesting thing is that the wellness community continues to use the same behavioral change approach that causes that 95%. It's crazy. So I thought, well, what about the 5%? What is it that the 5% of people are doing so differently that they keep the weight off and create permanent habits? Well, what I've learned is it's actually not that difficult. It's actually quite different than everything diet culture and the health and wellness community want you to think, because obviously if you know this, you won't have to spend money with them. But I am so kind, and because I have access to trainings that people in the wellness industry do not have access to, I'm going to share this with you. In my 8-week collective, I am teaching you the 5 habits that the most successful individuals do who lose weight and keep it off permanently. With these 5 habits, I'm also going to teach you the amount of flexibility necessary to be consistent with your routine. In this collective, we are going to learn your day-to-day, week-to-week routines, understanding your time, your attention, your schedule. Then you're going to receive a custom roadmap on how to execute those habits. It's all written out for you. Over this time, you're also going to work on the failure narratives that cause self-sabotage. Because what we're learning, it's not reward. It's actually reduce failure in the brain. And over the course of the 8-week period, not only are you going to have more energy, you're going to feel better in your clothes, you're going to have a strong, consistent routine, you're going to end food noise, and you're going to end or reframe at minimum the self-sabotage you experience. So if you're tired of this same old runaround that the fitness industry is trying to tell you works, but we know obviously doesn't, comment Bloom and I will send you information.
So hear me out if you've been telling yourself, like, I don't know why I'm so irritated all the time. Like, I should be grateful. I have a partner that's really helpful. Susie doesn't have a partner that's helpful, and I do. While yes, be grateful that you have a partner that is involved in the day-to-day tasks of your life, also recognize that you are still irritated. Both can be true. This is the concept of cognitive dissonance. We can have 2 competing thoughts about the same situation, and both can be true. They're both data. I can be grateful that my husband wants to take on half of the responsibilities, and irritated that he doesn't understand that he's not taking on half of the cognitive load that is required to execute those responsibilities. Okay. Finding number 3, emotional fatigue is higher for women. And we know this isn't because we're less resilient, because we're actually very fucking resilient. I mean, the fact that y'all have babies and your bodies just kind of, go from this, full term body to having a child to kind of reorganizing it. We're fucking resilient as shit. I mean, it is beautiful. My best friend's sister just had a baby and wow. Anyway, emotional fatigue though, on the other hand, right, is we don't feel as resilient because our brains never clock out of work. Like, this is why you guys struggle with sleep so much. And you might have the most perfect bedtime routine. You might plan ahead for all of that, right? But then your brain never shuts off. You never clock out. This is why our anxiety gets so high. This is why we feel like we need to numb. This is when you're exhausted like this, your impulse control is out the door. Like, if you want to introduce a wonderful way to binge eat or binge drink, here you go. This is it right here, right? So we're never clocking out. You can't be resilient to something that you don't actually step back from and learn from. That's the whole part of resiliency. Number 4, and the biggest one, though there's 2, Partners underestimate your burden. This is like a ticking time bomb in your relationship. This study finds systemic perception gaps, meaning in a meaningful share of couples, women report more responsibility than their partner recognizes. This is why when you ask your partner, like, hey, or you tell them, hey, I have a lot on my plate, and he's like, but I already do so much for you. Technically, both of you are right. Yes, he is doing the tasks and completing them, but what you're talking about are two different things, right? He's talking about the tasks, like I just said, and you're talking about the ownership of those tasks, the responsibility of the execution of those tasks. That is where that gap exists. Now, this is especially pronounced for educated, working, employed women. This matters to me because this is you. You are my audience because you are me. We are career driven. We are capable. We are responsible women. Give me a task. Give me something to organize. I will do it, baby. Right? And you will too. What this research shows is that the effects were particularly strong among women who were employed and college educated, and they report more spillover of family responsibilities in paid work hours. In the author's public summary, there's a detail that should make every professional woman sit the fuck up. Among employed respondents, 47% of women reported thinking about childcare planning very often or always while working. What do you guys think, Benwer? Yell it. I hear you. 13%. 13%. Nearly half of the employed women are thinking about the logistics during work. This is why women burn out, you guys, because I think there's two reasons. Because I'm going to tell you something I know about myself. I really struggle with having employees while I'm still coaching clients. Why is that? Because I'm an amazing leader when all I have to do is lead. Okay. When I have to lead, coach, admin, market, it really is a struggle for me. Okay. And I've realized that, and I have pulled back from that. What I think the biggest struggle for me is that it was impacting all areas of my life because I am not being the leader that I want to be. I am not showing up for my coaches or my clients in the way I want to. Marketing falls to the wayside, X, Y, and Z. This is what we're talking about here because you're thinking about taking care of everything that nothing actually gets executed. And I think this is why women really are fearful of not being enough. I think this is why we find ourselves in this kind of imposter syndrome place, whereas our male counterparts, they don't have to worry about this. So they can be very focused on their job because they don't also have to be the leader, or in your case, the parent, the mother, the wife, the executor, right? For me, it was I had to execute all of these things and they just bled into each other where it's like that saying where the person who, the jack of all trades is like an expert in nothing. You know what I'm saying? That type of saying. That is incredibly important. I think we end up burning out too, especially as our bodies go through changes. I can't tell you how many women that I know have quit their jobs in midlife because they are fried. They are fried, but because they weren't aware of mental load plus cognitive physical load, which we talk a lot on this podcast, they just kept pushing and kept pushing and kept pushing until their bodies fried them out and they can no longer do it. There's a difference between intentional rest and recovery and collapse. And when I see those women quit their jobs, they're in collapse. Okay, finding number 6. The key indicator isn't time spent, it's perceived responsibility. This study suggests that the perceived responsibility by managing family activities is more strongly associated within the couple's perceived gap. Okay, so the perceived responsibility versus the time doing the tasks is where that gap exists. So again, if you have a partner who does a lot and still feels like they're fried, they're crushed, they're collapsed, you're more likely, that partner is more likely the one that holds more of that mental ownership for the execution. That's why just delegating things doesn't fix this, because if you're still delegating, guess what? You're still the manager. You're still in charge. When a partnership should be that, a partnership. You know, I often say this to divorced parents is that you are now business partners. You're not loving partners. But really, thinking about your relationship as a business partnership is incredibly important. If you had one business partner planning, adapting, thinking ahead, anticipating more than the other business partner, we're going to have an issue. Plus, what the other business partner is going to realize is that the way that the planning partner is executing may not fit their needs, and it may not be best for the business. But at a certain point, they're just grasping for straws so that we can keep afloat. That doesn't fly in business. It's usually is going to be equal, that we have a plan of attack. We're scheduled. We anticipate barriers. We have resolutions for those outcomes or those obstacles, right? So I think it's the same. It should be the same, at least in your loving relationships, where we're not delegating, we're not commanding, we're equal partners in this, both mentally, physically, emotionally. So for this woman, I had an easy time making this list, you guys, because it's so prevalent in every woman that I talk to. How does this show up in their bodies and their lives? Well, mental load shows up in the following ways. You sit down, but you never feel rested. You may even lie down and go to sleep. You're relaxing, but you don't feel relaxed because your brain literally has like hundreds of tabs open. You're short-tempered and feel very guilty for it. You're productive all day, but feel like you're behind. You struggle to be consistent with your nutrition and training, not because you don't care, you don't have the freaking bandwidth to do it. You are spent. You crave sugar when you maybe just ate, right? Or it's not time to eat, right? And you're doing this because your nervous system is looking for a dopamine hit. It's looking for something exciting because you haven't downshifted it in hours. And it's just like, give me something good to feel, please, right? And your libido drops. This is my favorite thing here, because it's not because you hate your partner and you're not into it. You can't shut off. You are still on duty. You are still watching. And do you think that you're going to be soft and vulnerable and intimate when you're on like crossing guard duty constantly? No, you're not. So that impacts your relationship, right? And from a therapeutic perspective, when you are the default organizer, planner, all the things, if you do not get in control of this, you're going to cause your system to be in constant hypervigilance, constantly looking, constantly watching, right? Constantly thinking. Yes, hypervigilance can come from trauma, but it also can come from never feeling safe. So we never tell the brain that we're safe. So the brain is constantly looking for why we're not safe. You can't let go. You can't let go. You can't relax until everything is handled. And I'm here to tell you, everything will never be handled. That is so important. Okay. So what ends up happening with this is we continue on and continue on. And you, because remember that little girl, that golden child, you've been conditioned to believe like you can do a lot, and you can. But now it's I should be doing a lot. And when you do not execute, it is full identity failure. I want to share a story with you guys I was thinking about the other day. My friend Regina Trio and I were huge Anthony Hardaway fans back in the day. We used to wear Anthony Hardaway jerseys with like sports bras underneath. Don't ask me why my parents let me wear that. Short shorts, high socks, and the Nike Airs. You know which ones I'm talking about with the air on the side. We were cool. And my parents decided to take us to the NBA All-Star game like community event, like the big one down in the convention center. And they did not buy tickets. They're like, oh, we'll just buy tickets at the door. Well, we get there and it is sold out. And guess who got the brunt of my wrath? My mom. And I feel really bad about that, right? Just like the disappointment she must have felt with then also her daughter being a dick and just, acting a fool. Like, I can't even imagine the feelings, right? The internalizations that I failed. I failed my family. I'm just not managing it well enough. There is not enough time. If I were more this or less that, I would have done better. Like, that in itself it's such a, like I said, a blow to your identity, especially when you make your identity achievement, performance, execution. And also no one recognizing when you are executing. So here's the thing. You're recognized when it's not executed, but then no one recognizes when it is executed. So that gap is even more of a blow on your self-worth, right? It's crazy. It's crazy. How have we never talked about this? It's all coming back to me. Anyways, what I want you guys to hear is that your plan requires you to operate like you have infinite cognitive capacity. You have infinite amount of load that you can take on. I am here to tell you that that plan is broken. It will break you. It will exhaust you. It will cause problems in your relationships, in your work, as we talked about, in your relationship with your children. It will break you. Okay? This is why so many women who are listening to this overtrain, undereat, but they still feel like shit. They still feel puffy, exhausted, reactive, stuck, as they say. They're just constantly dysregulated. That tape is constantly playing in their minds. And if this doesn't change, my loves, you're going to move from just resentment here and there to chronic resentment and bitterness. You're going to be so emotionally detached from your body that you have no idea what is going on. You're going to have increased bouts of anxiety and panic. You're going to burn out from the things that made you feel good. Your zest for life will go out the door. You'll start to fight about petty bullshit that does not matter. And like I said, this will spill over into your work, which will decrease your performance because your bandwidth is split. And that spillover is very prevalent, 50%. So 50% of you listening, that childcare, that planning, organizing, it is spilling into your work. And you're going to think, why can't I do this? I interviewed Olenka Cullinan, who is my business coach. And she said, we still only have 100% in a day. But you think you have 100% in work, 100% in childcare, 100% in your romantic relationship. We just have 100%, just one pie. As I said last week. Yes, we bake our own pies, but there's still just one for each of us. So what are some practical solutions? Well, the first thing I want to introduce you guys to is actually something that a client had shared with me, and I want to read it to you guys because, we usually say that you can't pour from an empty cup. But when she sent this to me, I was like, holy shit, this is so important for you all to hear that I'm going to read it for you. So I'm just looking at this. Stop pouring. Better to stop pouring than to fill a cup to the brim. I think I'm saying this right. Laozi isn't warning against abundance. He's warning against the habit of always reaching for more. A full cup is only useful if it doesn't spill. And most of us, left unchecked, pour past usefulness, into excess, into display, into stress. Ancient bronze vessels used in rituals sometimes had a hole right below the rim. They could never be completely filled. It was a quiet reminder to leave room. Fullness in this teaching is not achievement. It's a warning sign. Things that are at capacity are close to collapse. a mind full of certainty or uncertainty, a calendar without space, a house packed with things, we praise them, but they rarely hold up. The towel leaves gaps. It moves through what's open. The lesson is not to stay empty, but to stop before you're full to breathe. Enough is difficult, especially for a lot of you. It requires judgment, patience, and sometimes restraint in the face of praise. If you can stop pouring, you can carry the cup. You can drink what you need. You can share. Laozi isn't asking you to withdraw. He's asking you to know when to pause. That's what keeps the cup from tipping. That's what keeps the wine from spilling. That's what lets the hand rest. Let's talk about how to do that. Let's talk about insight, okay? What we want to start doing is assigning ownership versus asking for help. The word help keeps you in the manager position, in that invisible project manager, right? Instead of asking, can you help with the kids' schedules? You can say something like, I need you to fully own the kids' schedule systems. That means to track it, plan for it, and handle the conflicts. Is this something that you think you can do? When we provide ownership to someone, what it means to them is that they're going to have to notice what is important. They're going to have to plan. They're going to have to execute, and they're going to have to adapt for any barriers or things that didn't work out. This is incredibly important because you are laying out the responsibilities. You're explaining all of the aspects of it. And yes, that takes time. Like I said, for me, it's been hard for me to train my staff because I only have so much time to do that. But I do know, especially when I'm really busy, training a support staff in whatever capacity that is actually going to give me time back. But I am going to have to spend that time to explain everything to them, right? And what this is taking away from what you normally do is that idea of tell me what to do and I'll do it. It's really learning the system and adapting that system to that person. It's very similar to what we do here in coaching. A lot of you want a coach to just tell you what to do and you'll do it. The problem though is that coach's system is not going to be the same as your own. And you're going to find yourself hitting these blocks because the system doesn't work for your life. And I'm going to touch on that here in a second. This next part is grab a piece of paper and pen, please, because I want you to start this process like yesterday. We're going to do a mental load map. Take about 10 minutes to do this, you guys. And I want you to ask yourself, if I disappeared for 1 week, what would fall apart? I think about my best friend, Jessica. My best friend, Jessica, has this fucking calendar. It's a planner and it's this thick and there's like papers coming out the side, but that thing works for her. I don't even know if she's been out of town by herself. I mean, she has with us, but I think like grandma came and helped. Like that shit would collapse. And her husband is very helpful and attentive. He's a wonderful man. But like, if you don't know how to read that thing, we're screwed, right? And her daughter's old enough now that I think she would actually take on that role, which is something we don't want. But anyways, coming back down to it, write it down. Don't filter it. Be truthful. This is your list of the invisible labor that you do. So if you're out of town and your husband doesn't know about school pickup, that's going to collapse. Your kids are going to be at the office because he has no idea how to get there, what time it's going to happen, what time he needs to get in line when it happens, an effort to get in and get out in the most efficient amount of time. But you do, right? You know how to do that. What you're going to do is take this list and put it into 3 categories. We are going to put our first category as must be done. These are the non-negotiables. When my husband leaves town, one thing that I used to forget was feeding my dogs. I know. I never had to feed them, right? Bark fed them. So in an effort to fix that while he is in town, I have now habit stacked making their food when I'm making my own food. And that way, there's 2 things there. They obviously get fed, but number 2 is that they're not begging for my food because they're eating their own food because they are beggars because your girl likes to feed them off the table. So that is number one, your non-negotiables. These are things that must be done. You need to feed your children. You need to bathe your children. They need to get to school at a certain time. You need to pick them up from school at a certain time. They need to do their homework. They need to get to swim. They blah, blah, blah. And maybe the activities are not a must do for the first couple times, but you know what I'm saying. Number two list is what can be simplified. Okay. What does not, you do it. You do it perfectly, right? But if your husband can do it good enough, let him do it good enough. He may not do it the way you do it, but let him do it good enough. And number three list is what can be transferred. What can be transferred for someone else so that they own it. Not that you own it, so that they own it. For example, say that your partner works and they can't do school pickup. Is one of the moms from the school that's your friend, can it be transferred to her? Not that she needs anything else on her plate, but you know what I'm saying. This will create traction, right? This mental load is going to create traction, and it's going to expose you to the things that really matter, and also give you the responsibility, or give you the ability to not have to be perfect in everything, which is something you're allowed to do. The next thing is really important. We are not just delegating random tasks. What we're going to do is transfer the domains. So I want you to think of domains like meals, okay? Planning of those meals. So what are we going to eat? Grocery shopping those meals, and then executing those meals. All meals, all you, all day. School logistics, the pickup, the homework assignments, making sure that the permission slip is signed, right? All of the things that your child needs, someone takes that domain. The appointments for the family, someone has that calendar domain. Weekend plans, that's usually me. If I was to leave out of town and Mark had to be somewhere, he would probably, he would still show up one of the best dressed, but probably not dressed for the occasion. He'd probably be late, and he probably wouldn't bring a gift, right? So I'm the weekend planner. The laundry system could be that. Time for connection could be a domain. Domains create relief because they remove whole sections of what you're doing from your load, right? Because think about it. Your husband, like my husband, cooks dinner. But if we didn't have the system that we had in place to balance that domain, then he would go to cook dinner and the food wouldn't be in the fridge because I would be the one responsible for that. But we have a system because we use a lot of apps for our groceries, which actually just makes it very easy because we eat relatively the same things every week. So domains are really, really helpful. And step 4, listen to me, clean out your ears, create a no management rule. You are not the micromanager. Let them own that domain. We are not reminding, we are not checking, we're not correcting, we're not redoing, we're not just making sure. My husband had a very specific task, domain, if you will, that was very important to our relationship. And I noticed it wasn't happening, and I just let it be. I let it be, and I let it be, and he figured it out. He ended up having to call someone to then connect to the person that he needed to connect to, and now him and that person are doing their thing. So this is not a time for you to be like, well, I just do it so much better. And like, he doesn't do it the same way. If it's getting done, let it be. Let it be. It's not going to be done the same way as you. And that's okay. You don't have to worry about it, because if it's getting done and all is well, enough, not perfect, just enough, we're going to be okay. Okay. The reason for this is the moment that you step in, your nervous system puts you back in the role of manager. You're responsible again. And we're trying not to do that anymore. It will be done differently. That's absolutely going to happen. Will that trigger you? Possibly, most likely. And that, my dear, is where the work gets done for you. Being able to handle the fact that for so long, control of your environment has made you feel safe. And now that this thing is out of your control, your subconscious wants to pull you back towards safety, which is control. So what do? We become conscious. We say, I'm just feeling the need to control this because I've done it for so long and that's been safe. When I'm not in an unsafe environment, I am okay, and I'm going to go do something kind for myself. Okay? So, step 5, and I wanted to tie this back to your health goals as always. When we're having these conversations with our partner, we're not just prefacing it as I need less responsibility, right? Allowing them to understand that when you are taking on all these domains, even though they are helping with the tasks of executing, that it has such a weight on your nervous system, and that your goal is to work from a healthier nervous system that makes life feel sustainable, where you're able to take time to relax, to do nice things for yourself. Come from that point of view rather than the point of view of less responsibility. This is a very mature and I think human way of looking at this. It takes us from tit for tat, kind of checking off the boxes, to I can't calm down until these domains, these things are no longer my responsibility. Some of them, right? And I think it's a really beautiful thing. And if you're a partner listening who helps, if your partner says, or even looks, maybe don't look, but says they're overwhelmed, don't ask, what do you want me to do? Instead, I want you to ask, like, what do you need me to fully own? And what does fully own mean to that partner? Like, what does that look like? Then you're going to take initiative without being asked to fully own those things. Because the sexiest thing for a burned out, high achieving woman is not romance, it's relief, baby. And if you want to get it on, you better get it on. Get it? I'm a joker, I'm a comedian. Anyways, let me close with this. You're not tired and exhausted and burnt out because you suck. That's not true for you. You are tired because you're like the default executive of like multiple companies. And the research that we talked about backs this up, that women have been we've been trying to explain this for a long time. And it's not about more tasks. It's not about like delegation. It's about ownership. It's about each partner taking on the role of ownership for the different areas of your life. So I want to leave you with this reflective question. What are you carrying that no one else sees? And what would it look like for someone else to truly own this? If this episode hit a nerve for you, it's because this shit is real and you're not alone. The fact that this was actually research means that a lot of us struggle with this. And if you're at the point where you don't need more, you don't need to put more on your plate, but you know that your strategy is not working, this is exactly the work that we do in the Mindset of Matter coaching program. We're building health that fits into your capacity and your real life. So if you're interested in coaching with me, check out the show notes below. And if you have, I feel like this is such a great episode to send to your girlfriends, because you're like, remember that conversation we were having? This explains it. Please share this. The more you share it and give it out to more people, the more people that subscribe. So the way that it works is YouTube, you subscribe to the channel. On Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you follow my show. The more you guys do that, the algorithm says that people in this demographic, women, basically 35 to 55 in the United States, enjoy this information. However, we do have people listening all over the world. Hello. That really is helpful. So I am asking you to take on the domain of spreading the word of this podcast, if you would. Other than that, I am going to let you be on your way and remind you that what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. Bye-bye.